It's over. What they did to you didn't slip past unnoticed. Every whispered word, every stolen credit, every silence you had to swallow while the other person moved ahead. Heaven logged every single one. And I'm here to tell you today that the reckoning is already in motion. Not tomorrow. Not when you finally find the strength to confront it. It's happening right now. This very moment. Stay through to the end of this video. Before it's over, you're going to understand why your quietness over these past few months was the most powerful move you could have ever made. But before we get there, I need to walk through a specific moment with you. You remember a meeting, or a room, a place where you tried to speak and someone cut you off mid-sentence, and the person who cut you off was applauded, praised, recognized. While you stood there with the words stuck in your throat, processing what had just happened, trying to decide whether to push through or let it go. And you let it go. Not because you had nothing to say, because you understood it wasn't the time to fight, but that moment stuck with you. And there's a phrase, you know exactly which one. A sentence said in a low voice, almost in passing, in front of someone who mattered to you. A sentence about who you are, about what you're worth, about what you're capable of, and it was delivered with that calculated casualness of someone who knows exactly what they're doing. And after it left that person's mouth, it entered your head, and it stayed there for weeks, maybe months, showing up at the exact moment you were about to move forward on something. As if that person's voice had found a permanent address inside you and decided to take up residence. You watched others advance. The promotion went to the person who didn't do the work. The credit went to the person who didn't build it. You, who were there every single day, who delivered, who poured yourself into it, got pushed aside. And the question you didn't dare ask out loud was, what am I doing wrong? Because the honest answer, the one you kept to yourself so you wouldn't look weak, was nothing. I'm not doing anything wrong. And that very answer was the one that hurt the most. So you picked up your phone, typed, I'm fine, with a hand that was shaking. You seek. You dedicate yourself. You do everything right, and yet abundance never comes. And the worst part, you start wondering if you're doing something wrong, if you're being heard up above, if it's meant for you at all. It's not a lack of faith or worthiness. It's a spiritual blockage that ordinary prayer alone cannot break. The Miracle Journal unblocks this in 21 days with a spiritual protocol that works exactly where your prayer doesn't reach. Along with the journal, you'll also receive as a gift the prayer guide and the Psalms manual with the most powerful sacred practices and texts to deepen your transformation. To claim your version of the journal, tap the link in the comments right below this video. Your phone, typed, I'm fine, with a hand that was shaking. Sent it, and put the phone back in your pocket. Because explaining the weight to someone who wasn't there was more work than just carrying the weight alone. Because you learned early on that certain pains don't have words that fit into a quick conversation. So you carried them in silence. If you're here right now, you're still standing. That's not nothing. That's everything. The like on this video is your public amen. Heaven logs what you confess openly. Leave your mark that you saw this message and that this word reached you. Now I need to make you 3 promises before I go on. And these are promises this video will fulfill before it ends. First, the silence you maintained all this time wasn't weakness. It wasn't cowardice. It wasn't spiritual passivity. It was what allowed heaven to act without human interference. When you could have responded and didn't, you made room for a movement you couldn't have pulled off on your own. And today, I'm going to show you exactly why that silence was your most powerful act of faith. Second, before this is over, you're going to receive a concrete protocol. 3 steps to release the bond with the person who caused the pain. Not to pretend it didn't happen. Not to forgive before you're ready, but to stop carrying the weight of the reckoning as if it were yours. Because it's not yours. It never was. Third, by the end of this video, you'll be able to declare that you've exited the cycle of injustice. Not because you demanded revenge, not because you waited for the other person's collapse, but because you were set free before any of those things became necessary. I placed you here because this word is for you, not for the group, not for the list, not for someone who might skim through. For you. None of those scenes you lived through went unseen by me. In real time, in detail, I was there. Before we get into the signs, I need you to do one thing. Close your eyes for a moment, or look away from the screen. What you're about to hear doesn't work with divided attention, because what's here isn't information. It's recognition. And recognition only lands when you're present enough to receive it. The first sign is this. You've started to feel indifference toward what that person is doing. Not anger, which would still be a reaction. Not curiosity, which would still be a connection. An absence of reaction where there used to be pain. You saw their name come up in a conversation and felt nothing. Or felt something so small you almost wondered if the pain was ever real. And then you felt guilty for not feeling it anymore, because part of you learned that the pain was proof that what happened mattered. But this sign isn't callousness. It's spiritual detachment, starting before you even asked for it. Heaven began the process of separating you from what was done against you, without you realizing it, without you authorizing it. The bond is being cut from the inside out. The second sign, the memories are coming less frequently. The scenes that used to replay every night, that appeared in the middle of a thought without warning, that surfaced right when you were about to fall asleep. They still show up, but they come spaced out, with a different weight, like they're losing their sharpness. You called this forgetting, and you were torn between wanting to forget and being afraid that forgetting would mean normalizing. But that's not what it is. It's heaven doing the work of internal repair while you sleep. Every time that scene arrives with less force, it's evidence of a process you're not driving. It's being driven on your behalf. The third sign, you found out something about the person who hurt you without looking for it. You didn't go searching for the information. It came to you. Through someone who mentioned it in passing, through a social media account you don't even follow anymore, through a comment in the most unlikely context. And what came wasn't good for that person, and you sat there staring at that information, trying to decide what to do with it. Whether you should feel satisfaction, whether you should feel pity, whether you should do something about it. This sign isn't a coincidence. Heaven is showing you that the process is underway, that what's being harvested by that person is being harvested, and that you don't need to monitor. You don't need to track. You don't need to keep one eye open, because what's happening doesn't depend on your watchfulness to happen. The fourth sign, something that was blocked inside you has started to move. A desire to plan that wasn't there before. An idea that came out of nowhere, and you didn't kill it like you would have a few months ago. An energy to move forward on something that anger had buried. You don't know where it came from. It just appeared. Maybe it's not strong yet. Maybe it's still fragile. But it's there. What that person placed in front of your path was blocking you from the inside, not just from the outside. The anger you were carrying was consuming the same energy that would have served you to rebuild. And it's being released. The blockage is being removed from the inside out. The next sign is the hardest one to hear. It's the one the enemy spent the most time trying to make you ignore. The fifth sign, the one the enemy worked hardest to hide from you, is a specific stillness that appears when the subject comes up. Someone mentions that person's name. You walk past the place where it happened. Someone brings up the topic. And instead of that immediate tension, that tightness, that reactivation of the wound, you feel a peace you can't rationally explain. It's not resignation. Resignation has bitterness underneath. It's not acceptance. Acceptance has giving up underneath. It's a stillness that feels bigger than the situation deserves. You called it numbness. The enemy called it weakness. Told you that you were normalizing it, that you were being naive, that you were letting the person off the hook. But this stillness is heaven's signature. It's proof that the reckoning has left your hands and entered God's hands. And that's exactly why the enemy worked so hard to make you call it a problem. Because when you're still, he can no longer use what was done against you to move you in the wrong direction. Type "free" in the comments if this word reached you. If you recognized any of these signs in your own life, type "free." The decree of someone who confesses is different from the decree of someone who only heard. Close your eyes for a second. Take a deep breath. What I'm about to tell you doesn't work if your attention is split. There's a story in the book of Esther that most people hear and see as revenge, but it's not. Haman built a gallows 50 feet high to hang Mordecai, the man who refused to bow to him. He designed the gallows, paid for the gallows, chose the location, put in the work. And when the king asked what should be done for the man the king wants to honor, Haman answered thinking he was talking about himself. And he was the one who led Mordecai through the streets in public honor. And it was on that same gallows that he ended up. Esther didn't ask for Haman's death. Esther asked for her people's survival. Heaven converted the instrument of destruction into proof of justice. Haman entered the process with his own hands, built his own end with his own hands, and there was no way out of what he himself created. The spectator doesn't need to build the gallows. It's already being built by the hands of the one who ordered it. And there's a metaphor any physicist would confirm: the boomerang. The person who throws the boomerang chooses the direction, chooses the force, chooses the angle, believes they have total control. But the moment it leaves their hand, the laws that govern its return don't ask about intention. They don't negotiate. They don't wait for permission. The thrower chose the instrument and the force, but they have zero control over the return. The spectator didn't throw the boomerang. The person who hurt you threw it, and the return doesn't need any intervention to happen. Both Esther and the boomerang reveal the same principle. The force applied against the chosen one carries within itself the seed of its own return. The spectator doesn't need to interfere with the trajectory. The trajectory is already determined by what was thrown. Type Esther or boomerang in the comments. Which one did you identify with more? With the story of someone who watched the gallows being built and didn't have to raise it? Or with the physics of something that was thrown and will return without needing any help finding its way back? Let me stop for a full minute and tell you the truth about what's happening to you. You carried a real injustice, not a distorted perception, not an overreaction, not a misunderstanding that could have been resolved with a conversation. A fact. Something was done to you that should not have been done. You kept silent when you had every reason to act, and the silence cost you. It wasn't easy. It wasn't natural. It cost you something you're not going to get back just because someone now tells you it was worth it. But it cost. The signs you felt over the past few weeks and couldn't name. The growing indifference. The memories coming less often. The news arriving without you searching. The desire to move forward that came back. The stillness in place of the tension. They are evidence of a process already underway. Not a process that will start when you do something right. Already running, and you're about to receive names for what you're living through. And a protocol for what's still stuck inside you. I saw it. I know what it cost you to stay standing while the other person moved ahead. I know what it cost to type that "I'm fine" with a hand that was shaking. I know what it cost to swallow that sentence said in a low voice and show up the next day like nothing happened. That wasn't passivity. I logged it as an act of faith. You stayed standing when you had the right to fall apart. And what you're about to receive now is the name of what has been over you this whole time, while you carried it without knowing what you were carrying. You are the record keeper. Every moment you were wronged and chose not to stoop to the level of the person who hurt you, I witnessed it. Not as omission, not as lack of reaction, as formal testimony. Every silence that cost you, every decision not to respond in kind, every time you left the room instead of making a scene, I was there, recording. Heaven has a file on what was done to you. And it has a file on how you responded, And those two files together form a case that doesn't need any more evidence. What this identity authorizes is this. You can stop feeling like your silence was complicity. You can stop justifying to yourself why you didn't react. You can stop wondering if you should have done something different. The record was made. You didn't need to react for heaven to take note. The note was already taken. You are the target who resisted. The attacker's attempt to reduce you failed. Not because you were strong enough, not because you protected yourself wisely, but because what is over you cannot be removed by human hands. The sentence said in a low voice didn't stick, because what it tried to name doesn't exist in what heaven declared about you. The credit that went to someone else didn't erase what was built with your hands. The promotion that went to the person who didn't work didn't redefine what is written about your path. The attacker tried to glue an identity onto you, and that identity found no place to stick. What this identity authorizes is this. You can stop carrying the name that was attempted to be stuck on you. What was said about you in a low voice, in a meeting, in a passing comment, in a conversation behind your back, has no authority to define what heaven has already declared. The definition that matters didn't come from someone who tried to diminish you. It came from before. You are free before the verdict. I saw the moment when the stillness started to become bigger than the anger inside you. That internal balance, that peace you can't explain, isn't a sign that you forgot. It's a sign that liberation has already begun before the reckoning becomes visible, before the attacker is confronted, before any external result appears. Freedom started inside you, before it appeared around you. What this identity authorizes is this. You can start acting like someone who has already been set free. Not waiting for the attacker's collapse to feel free. Not waiting for public repair to recover your dignity. Freedom doesn't depend on the external verdict. It has already been given. Type in the comments which identity is yours. Record keeper. Target. Free. Which name landed? Which one did you feel was yours before you even finished reading? Type the name. And if you're not yet subscribed to this channel, do it now. Because what's coming in the next videos was made for those who made it this far. Now the protocol. I promised you would receive it before this ends, and now is the time. The name of this protocol is the Sealed Release Protocol. 3 steps. Concrete. Today, the first step is to name it. Out loud. Not in a replay of pain, not to relive the scene, but as a declaration of fact. You're going to say out loud a simple sentence. This happened to me, and I saw it. Not what should have happened. Not who was right. Just the fact. Naming it out loud is different from naming it in your head. Your voice commits. What was said out loud has left the place of circular thinking and entered the place of declaration. And a declaration can be handed over. Circular thinking cannot. The second step is to transfer it. After naming it, you're going to say out loud, I hand over the reckoning to heaven and I remove my hands from the process. Not I forgive now. Not I pretend it didn't happen. You're transferring the responsibility for the reckoning to where it always belonged. You were never the judge of this case. The judge of this case never needed you to run the process. By saying this out loud, you are officially stepping down from a position that was never yours. The third step is to release the attention bond. A practical decision. Make the decision to stop monitoring the person who hurt you for a concrete period. Social media, news, conversations with mutual friends who give you updates. Not forever. For a period you define right now. Because every time you monitor, you reconnect the bond that the first 2 steps cut. Monitoring isn't information, it's a bond. And you don't need this bond anymore. The confirmation sign won't be dramatic relief. It won't be euphoria. It won't be an immediate feeling of victory. It will be a specific stillness that appears over the next few days, especially when the subject comes up in some way. That stillness is the confirmation that the protocol has been received and is in operation. Type received in the comments if you are receiving this protocol. The decree of one who receives and confesses is different from the decree of one who only heard. Over the next 72 hours, 3 things will be launched against you. Not as a possibility, as a certainty. I need you to know their names before they arrive, so that when they arrive, you won't be caught off guard. The first tactic is justified anger. It will arrive disguised as a sense of justice. It will seem like holding on to anger is proof that you're not being naive, that you're not normalizing what was done, that you still have discernment. Anger will seem smart. It will seem healthy. It will seem necessary. But justified anger is the mechanism that keeps you connected to the one who hurt you after the protocol tried to cut that bond. As long as the anger is burning, the bond is active, and the enemy knows that if he can keep justified anger alive, he can reconnect everything that was cut. The second tactic is mental replay. It will arrive disguised as healthy processing. It will seem like revisiting the scenes is necessary so you don't forget what happened, so you make sure you learn the lesson, so you process it maturely. But replay isn't processing. Replay is bond maintenance. Every time you relive the scene, you reactivate the emotional connection to the person who hurt you and to what was done. The enemy uses replay as a way to nullify the protocol without you realizing it, because he makes it look responsible and smart to do it. The third tactic is waiting for an apology. It will arrive disguised as a legitimate expectation. It will seem like complete freedom can only come when the person who hurt you admits their mistake, when they apologize, when they admit it publicly. And this tactic is the most effective of all because it chains you to someone else's timeline. Your freedom becomes conditioned on an action that may never happen. And while you wait, you're not free. And there's the internal enemy. The voice that will say letting go is the same as acquitting. That handing it over to heaven is giving up on seeing justice done. That the person who lets go is letting the one who hurt them walk away scot-free. This voice isn't maturity. It isn't discernment. It's the enemy's most sophisticated strategy because it uses your own voice with your own vocabulary to keep you trapped in a cycle that heaven itself has already decided to resolve without your participation. Type protected in the comments. The decree has been sealed. Those who name the tactics before they arrive are one step ahead of them. Now I need you to do one last thing with this video. It's not hard. It's physical. Open your hand. Palm up, not a closed fist. Open hand, palm up, posture of surrender. And now, in this position, I want you to name silently what you're going to release. It doesn't have to be out loud now. Just name it internally. The name or the face of the person who caused the injustice. Not to forget, to transfer, to place in heaven's hands what you were holding in yours, the scene that still replays, that meeting where they cut you off, that specific moment when you stood there, unable to respond. You carried that scene as if you needed it to prove something. Today, you hand it over. And the expectation of seeing the collapse before you feel free, the external timeline you set as a condition for your own freedom, you release the timeline. And now I speak to you directly. I was in that meeting where they cut you off. I saw the word die in your throat before it ever reached the air. I saw who was applauded while you swallowed in silence. I saw it. And it wasn't logged as defeat. It was logged as dignity maintained when it cost the most. I was there when you picked up your phone with a shaking hand and typed, "I'm fine." I know the weight that was underneath those 2 words. I know what you decided not to say in that moment. And I know why you did it. Not because you were fine, because you were protecting me from having to explain the unexplainable to someone who wasn't there. I was there. I didn't need an explanation. You were not abandoned in those scenes. I was in every single one of them as a witness. And what got logged in my file isn't what the person who hurt you did. It's what you chose to be while it was happening. And what you chose to be in those moments is bigger than anything anyone could have ever done to you. What they did to you did not go unanswered. The answer didn't arrive in the time you expected. It didn't come in the form you imagined. But it is coming. And when it arrives, you will understand why the wait was necessary, why the silence was necessary, why the stillness was necessary. Because what is coming back to them will come back in a way that leaves no doubt about where it came from. And you won't have to do anything to make it happen. You've already done it. You stayed standing. That was enough. Now you have exited the cycle. Not because you demanded revenge, because you were set free before it was ever necessary. Say it out loud now. I release. Heaven handles it. I move forward. Say it again. With your palm open, say, I release. Heaven handles it. I move forward. Type done in the comments. And now think of one specific person. Someone you know is carrying an injustice in silence. Someone who would never bring it up first, who shows up fine for everyone, but who you know is not. Send this video to that person today, not tomorrow. Today, because this word was prepared to reach where it needs to reach, and sometimes heaven uses your hand to do it. You are not the same person you were when this message began. It is done. What was delivered here has been delivered. You seek. You dedicate yourself. You do everything right, and yet abundance never comes. And the worst part, you start wondering if you're doing something wrong, if you're being heard up above, if it's meant for you at all. It's not a lack of faith or worthiness. It's a spiritual blockage that ordinary prayer alone cannot break. The Miracle Journal unblocks this in 21 days with a spiritual protocol that works exactly where your prayer doesn't reach. Along with the journal, you'll also receive as a gift the prayer guide and the Psalms manual with the most powerful sacred practices and texts to deepen your transformation. To claim your version of the journal, tap the link in the comments right below this video.